You are now in the black box. Whoa. With Spider Loke, Most Easty, aka VJ Keyway, and the Google Gang. Let's go!
Snake with Nip Hustle. Big shout out to my nigga SPI, Spider Loke. You know I'm in the black box, had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned, all that.
Jeter, gratitude is the attitude. The show is a blessing. To be back in the black box as we blow a succession, the constant, continuous, consistent content creation campaign continues. Those are the 7 C's. We are navigating upon those 7 C's, and as we do so, I'm the captain of the voyage, SPI Easty, a.k.a. VJ Keyway, Mr. 159 Selm himself. We reacting to titles. I have no idea what this content contains. The title caught my attention. This gang terrorized Compton for decades. The story of YG, Slim 400, and the deadly Treetop Pirus. Rest in peace to Slim 400. You already know what song we playing after this one. What's happening? But with no further ado, let's see what YG and Slim 400 has been up to. Oh, my mama.
When you hear the name Treetop Piru, you're not just hearing the name. You're tapping into a history woven deep into the streets of Compton. It's a name that echoes from the cracked sidewalks of Rosecrans to the furthest corners of hip-hop lyrics, police reports, and neighborhood legends. Treetop Piru, a branch of the larger Piru Alliance, emerged in the 1970s, born from the concrete roots of a city under pressure. Gangs in Compton and beyond weren't just born from rebellion. They're born from survival, from a need to belong, to protect, and to push back. And the Treetop Pirus,
They come to streets in like West Coast hip-hop and like giving streets to the world. You got Rosecrans, Crenshaw, Greenleaf. I can't think of many other streets that we've branded to the world that people will ask you about when you go out of town. Greenleaf, Crenshaw, Rosecrans. Anybody, am I forgetting one? Somebody help me out if I am. Well, 21st Street. Oh, blah.
are a strong representation of this. Named after tree-named streets in East Compton, like Hickory, Spruce, and Maple, Treetop Piru, they didn't just claim turf. They claimed an identity, will never be respected, feared, and immortalized in both the streets and in rap culture. From the music of legends like DJ Quick and YG, to whispers in the penitentiary, the Treetop Piru's influence spread beyond the city limits. But with that same recognition came numerous rivalries, and a cycle of retaliation that painted the city red. And behind those headlines is a deeper story. One of young lives navigating poverty, systematic neglect, and the lure of loyalty in a world where trust is currency. What makes a young man or woman pledge allegiance to a color, a name, or a neighborhood? To the outside world, it's violence. But to them, it's family, it's protection. It's the only thing that made sense when nothing else did. That's why this is more than just a gang story. This is human history. This is the Treetop Pirus, and they definitely have a story to tell. Yeah. All right, welcome to Cali's Most Dangerous. Let's get into it.
On Rosecrans Pass, only in the right, the light. Treetop is to the left, fruit top is on the right.
That was the hardest verse probably on that whole album. I ain't gonna lie. Rest in peace, Nina X, Bloody Mary on my mama. And that nigga that say, I'll lock it, grab my flag out my pocket. I think that was some anthems. That shit was hard too.
It's just as real as that, that other thing out there, from this side. We doing it like this, and it ain't no different.
Piru with 10 square miles. It ain't but 2 sets in Compton, Pirus and Crips. We don't have no Bloods in Compton, California.
Right.
There only be hate for my captors and hope for revenge in a spiritual life. I bear no resemblance to any fighter you've ever seen. I've been built like stone from within. My courage is of a lion. I possess the speed of a cheetah. And in the darkest shadows of the night, I'll shine like armor when the morning dawn casts its light.
I'm looking, like I said, it's to pull up, holler at my kin folks within the neighborhood I grew up in, not thinking like anything negative gonna happen.
Yeah, this your soil.
Yeah.
Real near alert. Rest in peace to my near 400. Met him in the track news, early morning politicking, just doing our thing. Then we turned into like, shout out to my boy Russ Park Bow, because that's who put me with Key Nuz. in the track news, and then we got the thugging. We was over there all the time. That nigga ears used to slide through there too, from the fruits on my mama, because it was a real street nigga. He was out here.
I was wrong.
Right.
A man and a woman have been arrested and charged in the slaying of rapper Vincent Coran, known by the stage name Slim 400. Michael Terry charged with murder and being a felon in possession of a firearm.
On April 22nd of 2006, Treetop Power member Daddy was chased down, shot, and wounded in Compton, California. And at that time, members of the Treetop Pirus believed an Hispanic gang known as the Segundos was responsible for the shooting. So they plotted a mission for revenge against this gang. That evening, Treetop Piru member William Davis asked fellow gang member Deshaun Leslie to drive him around so he could look out and see if any members was outside. He was looking for Segundos to confirm.
It killed me how these documentaries be getting these details. How they be knowing mind state and all this. So they just be adding that on. It's crazy.
Front or going to mission against. And Leslie agreed. So with Davis armed with the pistol, they drove down Line Avenue in Compton, an area claimed in the Segundos territory, as a second vehicle, driven by another Treetop member, followed behind. Meanwhile, Ivan Nieves, who was a Latino, was seated in his Mustang on Line Avenue, wearing a blue Dodgers cap, which is the known color of the Segundos gang. But he was not a member of any gang. And while seated, Leslie spots Ivan in his car and turns it around back towards the Mustang. And once close enough, he parks his car in front of Ivan's car, so Davis could bang on and ask him where he was from, or challenge Ivan, asking him his gang affiliation. But Davis, he had other plans. Davis exits the car, walks over to Ivan, and believing he was a Segundo gang member, fired numerous rounds at him, hitting him several times. With 8 shots, turned out to be fatal for Ivan. Davis then gets back in the car, and the two cars speed away from the scene. But due to witnesses and a thorough investigation from the detectives, the Treetop Piru members were eventually found, and ultimately the members were sentenced to life in prison. This situation played out in 2006, and as sad as it may be, it was only one of many daily stories that have an attachment to the Treetop Pirus, especially when it came to that year. This Piru gang, while smaller than some of the others, is known around Compton as being one of the most treacherous and deadly gangs around that area. They're known to engage in several deadly wars with several Crip gangs, Serenios, and even a couple different Pirus. But to fully understand why they have this long list of enemies and why they're so hated, it's essential that we get into the history of the Treetop Pirus. History of the Treetop Pirus.
Treetops got started in 1958, 59. One of my relatives and some more brothers.
All right, when it comes to all the Pirus,
Shout out to Lamar, that's my partner. Oldest living Pirus, how he brands himself. But yeah, that's my partner, good dude, on my mama.
gangs in Compton, if you watch my other videos, you know their creation can be traced back to the 1960s, originally known as the Pirus Street Boys in its earliest days. And in 1969, the Pirus joined forces with the Brim Gang, a gang that fell victim to multiple Crip attacks at the time. And by the early 1970s, together in the LA County Jail, they formed an alliance today known as the Blood. The Blood and Piru Alliance is still holds strong today with some sets. And the Treetop Pirus ties are deeply connected with the original Pirus from the foundation to today. But the foundation of the Treetop Pirus, it plays out a little differently compared to the rest of the Pirus in Compton. That's because before the Piru umbrella was established, these guys were already a tight-knit group that was often seen having each other's back. In the 1950s, there were racist groups in Compton like the Spook Hunters and the Minutemen, whose main goal was to terrorize the local minorities, often picking on them, throwing eggs and rotten fruit on the young.
Imagine that used to be the face of Compton. That's crazy, yo. Happy Days, Sha-Na-Na looking motherfuckers. I remember seeing an old documentary of some kids like that telling some black kids, get out of Linwood, niggers, with the hard ER. I'm like, damn, because Linwood, they can't get away with that these days. Oh, mama.
Young group, and often resorting to violence to establish dominance over.
We're coming across the street, and these Peckerwoods drove up on the side of us and asked us, do we know where? So they told me, man, don't walk in the cars. I walked up on these white boys' cars, being innocent and black, thinking all white folks like you. And it's something that my mother them instilled in me. White people are your friends and this and that. So I walked up on the car. When I walked on the car, they threw eggs and tomatoes on me.
So early on, OG Marv, who was a prominent member from the...
Man, what happened to them days, man? I don't know. But lucky that's all it was eggs and tomatoes. We turned that into something way more deadly and dangerous on my mama.
Treetop Pirus,
But to each other.
and a couple of his friends started a small group called the Blackjack. And after a couple of run-ins with these racist groups, these smaller groups in the surrounding areas started to come together, calling themselves the Treetops. Being formed shortly after other Piru gangs like Luther's Park, their name comes from the numerous streets their territory falls under, including Acacia Street, Poplar Street, and Maple Street.
Neighborhood was called Treetop.
Yeah.
Because all our streets, I'm from Elm Street. We ran Freddy Cougar out of there. So all the streets were named after trees. Fruit Town is cherry, fig, plum, so they became Fruit Town. The swamps in Compton, because it was a swamp over in their neighborhood, so they was the swamp area. Then they had Spook Town because the train tracks came through 12 o'clock at night and they go woo, and they thought it was spooks. Then they had what Nutty Block was, they were called Boot Hill because they got the 2 graveyards in their neighborhood.
And those are all names of gangs before Bloods.
That was before.
And from their foundation, the Treetop Pirus, they made a reputation for themselves, mostly being violent and very money motivated.
I ain't gonna lie, that's hard how he just had to pee red though.
But to get into all that and way more, we have to get into who this gang is today. Who are the Treetop Pirus? The Treetop Pirus, also known as the Treetop Compton Pirus and the West Side Trees, are primarily an African-American street gang located on the west side of Compton, California. When it comes to attire, the most notable cap for the Treetop Pirus and most gangs that fall under this umbrella is the iconic Philadelphia Phillies hat. In terms of area, the Treetop Pirus neighborhood is located in the northern region of Compton, south of Rosecrans Avenue, between Arambe Avenue and Acacia Avenue. In this gang, they consist of several cliques, with some of the most notable being the 300 block and the 400 block, which are east of Arambe, and other cliques consist of 500 block and the 600 block, which is west of Arambe. It's also the 800 block and the 900 block, which is represented by North Hickory Street.
P-Funk is just as real as that, that other thing out there, from this side. We doing it like this, and it ain't no different. We all black, just for
Quick and 8. They was the young out here from Compton that was really affiliated, that had deals, that had some shine. Oh, my mama. And they was beefing for real after a certain time. It's crazy.
some stupid reason people choose to make it territorial.
And like already mentioned, the Treetop Pirus' roots can be traced back to the 1950s. But by the 1980s, these cliques built a reputation for violence and continued to grow. So by the 1990s, they're one of the biggest gangs numbers-wise. Particularly in 1999, after the Treetop Pirus expanded across the United States, especially in states like Maryland. To be exact, this subset of the Treetop Pirus were started in Washington County Detention Center in Hagerstown, Maryland. And from their foundations, they made headlines in that state, which was especially a case in the early 2000s when a high-ranking female member named Michelle Hellburn, also known as Michelle Hell, was implicated for a murder and major drug trafficking operation. Yeah, that happened in Maryland. But trust, when you come back to Compton, this gang's activity was on a whole nother level from their foundation up until today. Matter of fact, like I already mentioned, 2006 was an intense year for the Treetop Pirus, with another deadly situation planned in early 2006. And while this occurred in California, it was still way outside the gang's territory. On January 6th of 2006, at around 11:15 a.m., LaTarisha Baylor and her 13-year-old son and a 19-year-old family friend, Terry Warren, went to the legal aid office located on 8th and Union Avenue in Los Angeles, California. While Baylor stood on the sidewalk smoking a cigarette, Cardero and Warren crossed the street and went into a thrift store. After Cardero and Warren left the thrift store, they waited to cross the street as Baylor went inside the legal aid office. As Cardero and Warren crossed the street, Jamal Dumas and the girl crossed from the other side. And as they crossed each other, Jamal bumped his shoulder into Warren's shoulder. So Warren asked him, "You ain't gonna say excuse me?" To which Jamil responded, "You know where you at? It's my territory." Warren then said he didn't care whose territory it was and he was just gonna go buy pants. Jamal then asked Warren where he was from, and Warren answered that he was from MCS, meaning Mid City Stoner. Jamal then pushed Warren, so Warren took off his necklace and handed it to Cordero, as he asked Jamal if he was gonna fight. So Jamal responded, "Yeah, we about to fight." At this point, Jamal and Warren were in each other's faces, and in the midst of that, Jamal told the girl with him to give him a jacket, And after about another minute of argument between Jamal and Warren, Jamal pulled out a handgun from the jacket pocket. Warren then told
those y'all be wondering how my fingers be ending up so black and sheeting it. I'll be just doing handfuls. I'll take like 7 grams and just crumble it. And I'll be in the studio. I'll be forgetting to go wash them in between all the time. But then I'll go get it off though. But this is how that be happening on my mama.
Daryl to go get his mom. Daryl began backing up. And while backing up, Jamal steadied his horn and without saying anything, fired 1 shot. Jamal and Daryl then make eye contact with each other. Then Jamal and the girl run away from the scene. Daryl, he then runs to the legal aid office, yelling for his mother. Baylor came outside and found Warren on the ground, trembling and grasping for breath. Shortly after that, sadly, he passed away. Meanwhile, a civilian was cleaning the sidewalk in front of the store on Union Street when he observed 3 young men standing together. He recognized one of them as Jamal, who he had seen around the neighborhood and inside his store. He said he saw Jamal remove an object from his pocket or waistband, pointing at one of the 2, followed by the sound of the gunshot. Then he saw one of the other 2 men fall to the ground. He said the other person ran across the street to the legal aid office, then returned with the woman. Last he said, he didn't hear any arguing or see the young man who was shot move before Jamal fired the gun. That evening, at around 5:30 p.m., Los Angeles detectives were conducting surveillance at East 71st Street. And at about 7 p.m., a detective saw Jamal crouching behind a car in a driveway. Jamal then jumped up and ran across the street.
He over there with the 7-1s, huh? That's crazy. He ducked off with my nips. B.I., what it do? That's Creed days. Yo, blah, 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 blah. B.A., my low, jank.
Street. But another officer followed and placed him under arrest. And after he was arrested and booked, during an interview, he told the detectives that the gun he used was at a friend's house. He wouldn't get the officers his friend's address, but said he would call his friend and have his friend put the gun outside where the police could find it. The thing is, Jamal didn't mind telling the officers where he put the gun because he thought that they thought he was innocent. Claiming on that night, Jamal, who was then 15 years old, slept in a stairwell in an apartment building.
That's the 3rd time I heard of a scenario back like that. Way long time ago, one of my young partners from Triac knew he had got gaffled up, and then the police told him, like, hey, I'll let you go, give me a gun. And Cuz had somebody go put a gun in a certain spot, like on a certain corner, and the police went and got it, and they let him go. They kind of politicked on Cuz behind that. And then it was a homie from 6 Deuce. East Coast got caught up with some shit, and the police told him he'd get some leniency if he turned in the gun, and it's reported Cuz went turned in a chopper to the police station. I think he got politicked on too. But both these situations is years ago. It's the 3rd time I heard of something like that. Me personally, I would never trust no proposition the police came at me with, even if I thought they said, hey, give me some gun. Man, whatever, man. Let me just take me to jail on my mama.
Near 7th Avenue and Valencia Street. He had a small handgun he kept for protection against gang members who had been trying to give him problems. And on that morning, he met with his friend Wiley, who had been staying nearby. Claiming later on that day, as Jamal and Wiley were walking down Union Avenue, he saw Warren and Daryl crossing down the street walking towards him. And after that, Jamal and Warren began mad-dogging each other. So they never bumped into each other in the first place. He says Warren then asked Jamal, "What's up, cuz? You know me from somewhere?" So Jamal responded, "Where would I know you from?" Followed by Warren asking, "Where you from?" And Jamal responding, he was from Treetop, Pirus. Saying Warren then told him, "Cuz I'm Watts," insinuating they belonged to a Crip gang in the Watts area. Saying he told him all this as he was walking close to him. But once he got too close, Jamal pushed him away. Followed by Warren saying they were about to fight and Warren removing his shirt and chain. Jamal said he was afraid he would get beat up by Warren and Cadero, mentioning that he looked at Wiley, who had him in her jacket, and what she had in his gun. With Jamal saying he then took out the gun and pointed it at Warren in order to get Warren to back off. But Warren, he began yelling at Jamal.
I don't understand that one. Hey, you got it? Hey, yep, you did that. Ooh, he drew down. Nigga kept woofing, huh?
Asking, "You gonna shoot me?" While also saying Jamal wasn't gonna do anything. Warren then took a couple steps towards Jamal. And then he fired.
I ain't gonna lie though. On multiple occasions, I have fired on somebody with a pistol like 3 times in my life. One of my G homies, one of my lokes, ECIP, Tony D. And then it's another there. It was like a popular situation. A lot of people seen it. I ain't gonna put her name out there. But there was a lot of people there, Corrupt, Roscoe, my nigga TC from Lantana, Goodfellas, Hoodfellas. There's a whole lot of people out there seeing that shit there. Oh, my mama.
The gun. Jamal then runs away. Saying he didn't intend to kill Warren, he intended to get Warren to back off so he could run away safely. Jamal went back and forth with the detectives, the prosecutor, and the judge.
Jay-Z say, confused. I just closed my young eyes and squeezed with a sound, open them up just in time to see you stumbling to the ground. Damn, what the fuck I done now? Them was bars.
But still in the end, due to the witness statements, ballistic evidence, and several taped interviews with Jamal, the trial court sentenced Jamal to a term of 15 years to life for murder, plus an additional 25 years to life for the firearm use. Man, definitely rest in peace to Warren. While it's alleged he was a gang member too, he was still definitely at the wrong place at the wrong time when he ran into Treetop Power member Jamal. But that's just one situation. When it comes to their enemies, they have a long list.
It sound like, if I ain't mistaken, they was way downtown or on the west side. I think he said 7th Ave. So that's like in the 6 O's or something, or off Century, I think. But off Van Ness. Don't sound like it was in Compton. I don't know about no number of Aves in Compton, unless it's North Long Beach. I ain't sure on my mama, because it wouldn't be Ave downtown, but it sounded like they said 7th Ave.
Some crazy stories attached to this gang, including intense rivalry that has been going on for over a decade at this point. On top of that, what's definitely a theme throughout this video at this point is the deadly year it was for Compton in 2006. With more than a few stories coming out from this year and having the Treetop stories attached to them. Like on the morning of June 10th of 2006, Deshaun Williams, Ozzie Davis, and Devion Harvey went to a gas station to buy cigars. And while at the gas station, they saw Fells in a car across the street from the driveway, which wouldn't have been an issue, but Leslie, Davis, and Harvey were all members of the Treetop Pirus. And Fells was a member of the rival gang, the Fruittown Pirus. But Fells, he was in the car driving away, but they didn't think too much of it. After that, Leslie, Davis, and Harvey began walking down the street, which was in the territory of the Treetop Pirus. But soon after that, Fells, he approaches from behind, points a pistol at the man, and fires 15 rounds at him. Unfortunately, Davis was killed, and Leslie was seriously wounded by the gunfire. But Harvey escaped injury by ducking behind a car. And while ducking, Harvey, who was armed with a revolver, pulled out his gun and fired at Fells, as Fells ran away from the scene. Initially, Leslie refused to cooperate with the police, fearing gang retaliation. A few days after the shooting, however, Leslie identified Fells as the assailant and the person who shot Davis. Leslie known Fells for many years when their respective gangs were friendly, also telling police that he and Harvey had been involved in another gang shooting approximately 1 month after the charged offenses, and that Harvey had been shot and killed in yet another gang-related shooting shortly thereafter. With that being said, Leslie put pressure on himself and his gang, the Fruittown Pirus, with his statements and cooperation with the police. So we had a lot of threats placed on them by the time the trial started.
It's crazy, all this treacherous activity go down. And every time it's the chips start falling, cooperation with the police comes into play. Seeing like, I know it's not every time, but so often. It's crazy.
For example, 1 week prior to the November 8, 2006 preliminary hearing, Leslie received several telephone calls threatening to kill him and his family if he snitched on Fells. Also on the day of the hearing, Fells placed 2 phone calls to leaders of both the Treetop Pirus and the Fruittown Pirus.
That's a dope idea to make that face and neck like a fingerprint, but I wonder if it's a deep meaning, like, oh, well, maybe your fingerprint identifies you just like your face. That's crazy. That's a dope idea. That's a dope art. Like, that'd be a dope photograph. I mean, like a painting, art piece of art.
During which they discussed unsuccessful attempts to convince Leslie not to testify, and later condemning Leslie for his testimony that Falls was the shooter. So by the time trial started, Leslie invoked his 5th Amendment right to remain silent, but his preliminary hearing testimony was read into the record. In addition, a gang expert testified that Falls was a member of the Piru gang and discussed the extensive criminal activities of members of that gang, which included murder, drive-by shootings, and armed robbery. The expert testified that the Fruittown and Treetops, to which Leslie, Davis, and Harvey belonged, were rivals, He also testified that gang members retaliated against rival gangs through violence, but never by snitching to police or testifying in court against a member of a rival gang. Saying a gang member who snitches to the police about another gang member, even if it's a member of a rival gang, is in danger of being killed. And due to that evidence, Walls was convicted of the murder of Ozzie Davis, the premeditated attempted murder of Deshaun Leslie, and the trial court sentence fall to a total of 90 years to life. This sadly was just one storyline that played out that year that resulted in the murder. The Treetop Pirus have been engaged in deadly warfare with the Fruittown Pirus, and through that have caused a lot of chaos in Compton. But to fully address why this war started, and to get into some more crazy stories, we have to address who this gang's main rivals are. Rivals of the Treetop Pirus. Compton, or in this case Bompton, is a little city with a lot of gangs, especially the Compton Crips, Pirus, and the Serenials that surround the area. The Compton area has always been known as
gang in Compton, gang of gangs in Compton. Boy, one street you in one set, the next street you in another set. On one intersection, it'll be two gas stations. That gas station belong to that hood. This gas station belong to that hood, and they arch enemies. Oh my mama. Central and the Laundry. And I think it's peace in the last so long, but through the years, that was a cold terror zone on my mama.
a dangerous city when it comes to its gangs and wars they engage in with each other. And the Treetop Pirus are a big example of this. Because of these facts, they have a lot of rivals. But first off, let's get into a couple allies. The allies to the Westside Pirus, the Campanella Park Pirus, and a couple other Piru gangs. But that's pretty much it. Some of their main rivals include the Compton Tortilla Flap. And these guys have a crazy history of going back and forth. For example, on April 16th of 2009, 3 teenage African-American males with ties to the Treetop Pirus were traveling on foot when they were confronted by a carload of high-ranking members of the Compton Tortilla Flap. Multiple shots rang out near the intersection of Acacia and Elm Street, but when police arrived at the scene, there was no signs of any Piru member. Instead, they found a member with a T-Flats. The driver of the car slumped over in the steering wheel with a bullet wound to the head. And down the line, due to witnesses and statements, a Treetop Piru member was charged for the killing and sentenced to 21 years to life in prison. But that's just one rivalry. The Treetop Pirus have a long-standing rivalry with the 145 neighborhood Piru and a history of going to war with the Segundo. Another
Oh, my mama, I'm hip to the 155s, the 151s. Shout out my nigga Spot. He is from 151 or 155, but I ain't know about the 154. Learn something new.
Mexican gang located near the Treetop. They're also known a few with the Compton 70s, the Compton 155, and a lot of Compton Crips, especially the Palmer Block Compton Crips. The crazy part about their rivals though, is that as you guys already know, the Treetops have a long-standing history of beefing with other Piru members. But the main gang that they beef with, that falls under the same umbrella as these guys, is definitely gonna be with the Fruittown Pirus. Beef with the Fruittown Pirus. The Pirus are by far one of the tightest umbrellas when it comes to gangs and street politics. At the early point in gangs history in Los Angeles, the Pirus, they had to be close and have each other's back, just because they were always outnumbered by the Crips, who often had odds of around 6 Crips to 1 Blood when it came to average membership. And when it comes to the case of the Treetop Pirus and the Fruittown Pirus, they start off being closer than most Piru gangs, mostly because of geographics and demographics in the area. The two gangs' territory is literally right across the street from each other, so they were often seen with each other. And rather at each other's corners, a party, or a park, you see them looking out for each other. But this relationship started to go south.
Told you the sets be close, so when the beef crack off, it be deeper than most on the coast.
As we entered the 20th century, a rather user commented, I think the death row days with members from the Mob Pirus, Looters Park Pirus, and the Treetop Pirus helped shape the conflict you've seen in the last 2 decades. So this means this war will trace back to the 1990s. But in 1993, the song Piru Love by the Crips and the Bloods, a rapper spits, Treetops to the left, Fruittown to the right.
On Rosecrans Pass, only in the red light. Treetopers to the left, Fruittowners on the right.
So they definitely had close ties back then. With that being said, OG Mark gave his take on how this war started. Regardless of how it started, this rivalry has seen a lot of bodies being dropped on each side and caused a lot of violence in the city. For example, on May 27th of 2006, Jackson, a member of the Treetop Pirus, was living on Hickory Street in Compton, California, in a household that included his mother and his sister, Erica Connor. Then around 9 a.m., Jackson left the house to walk to a liquor store located around the block on Rosecrans. When he went inside the liquor store, he saw Carrie, whom he knew as Booty. Jackson had seen Carey around the neighborhood many times and was aware that Carey was a member of the Fruittown Pirus, a rival gang of the Treetops, whose territory was on the other side of Rosecrans. Once the two made eye contact, Carey said to Jackson, "What's that Fruittown like?" Jackson interpreted this as Carey's way of letting Jackson know that he was a member of the Fruittowns and as an implicit threat or challenge. So Jackson replied, "Well, so what?" as Carey left the store. Jackson then made his purchases and began walking home, west on Rosecrans Avenue. And as Jackson turned on Hickory Street, he saw a burgundy four-door car just south of Rosecrans. Inside the vehicle was Michael J. Flores and James Douglas Cox, whom Jackson knew as Cheeks.
I remember it was a time you could tell the cars the gangbangers was in. And that's one thing, me personally, I always never wanted to identify myself as such. So from day uno, I never wanted the 4-door colors, 2-door colors, Arrigo, Monte Carlo. I didn't start getting the cars that was kind of like known until it was like the new body Regals, like the early 2000 Regals, and then like I fell for the Auroras and but I had like the Aurora before everybody had them on the Lone Horse and all that though. Like, but usually I wanted something that did not look typical, because you could tell what bangers was hopping out of back then. Now they sliding out of everything, all kind of shit. You don't know what they looking like. Oh my mama.
Was in the driver's seat, Cox was sitting next to him, and Carey was in the back seat. Jackson knew Flores and Cox well, having seen him hundreds of times around the neighborhood. Jackson also had seen Flores driving a burgundy car on more than one occasion in the past. Jackson believed that both Flores and Cox were members of the Fruittown. In addition, Cox had on a prior occasion confronted Jackson outside the liquor store and told Jackson to tell his brother Jimmy that Cox was going to smoke his ass. Jackson also recalled multiple occasions where Cox yelled, "Fuck Tank Top," while passing Jackson on the street, which is a derogatory term for the Treetop Pirus. When Jackson saw the burgundy car with Flores on the inside, he froze. And during that time, he seen Cox get out of the car, pull the hood of his sweatshirt over his head, and reach into his waistband. So Jackson, he turned and ran. And as he did that, he heard multiple gunshots. I heard Cox say, "Fuck Tank Top." Jackson, who had been shot in the hip and the buttocks.
Oh boy, doing this narration, he said that with too much emphasis. Like he liked saying that. Damn.
Ducked into a nearby barbershop and hid, followed by him asking a woman to call 911. After that, he was hospitalized for 4 days after the attack.
Shout out my homie Tatum. Way back when I was real young banger, I had a homie named Tatum. He had just turned the set. He went on the lick with the homies and got shot in the neck by the person that ran the store that they was re-nobbing. And it's crazy because I heard him just say he asked the lady to call 911 when the homie was down there leaking from the neck. It was some other niggas in the store that was like in line. And while he was down, he was leaking from the neck. He asked me like, "Hey, could y'all call 911 for me?" And the niggas asked him like, "Where you from?" That's some of the coldest shit I ever heard in my life to this day. And this was juvenile hall days on my mama.
And at the time of the trial, there were screws in his hips and he had difficulty walking. When Jackson's sister Erica found out about the shooting, Jackson told her that he had been shot by the Fruit Loops, which is a derogatory term for the Fruittown Pirus. However, when deputies questioned him, Jackson said that he had been shot by some Mexicans belonging to the T-Flap. But Jackson said that he gave deputies misinformation because he didn't want to be labeled as a snitch, which would put him and his family's life in jeopardy. But approximately 1 month after that incident, Jackson was arrested for possession of an assault rifle, interviewed by detectives. And during that interview, Jackson told them that Cox had shot him and also told them of Flores and Corey's involvement. With him giving this information without the detectives offering any type of deal or leniency on the case he was facing. And ultimately, Flores, along with Cox, was sentenced to life in prison. Thankfully, no one in that situation got killed, but trust, sadly, it's been more than...
Is that G you know he talking about? I heard a similar story attached to him. Something like he got bust on, he busts back, he caught a case, and he tried to go self-defense, and in the process, he does some type of identifying gestures toward the people that he was into it with. Seemed like that they was describing that. I'm not sure, though, on my mama.
A lot of bloodshed between two gangs over the years, with multiple bodies being dropped on both sides. But the Treetop Pirus are known to go to war with a lot of other different gangs in Compton, too. And they've had more than a few members who have made their reputation so deadly. Prominent figures. The Treetop Pirus have been around for over 4 decades, so they have more than a few prominent figures who've made this gang one of the most respected in Compton. But first off, I found a long list of members who are no longer with us. A few of them include Ozzie Davis, also known as Chaos, who we already mentioned was shot and killed at 409 Spruce Street in Compton, California. It's also Davion Harvey, who was shot and killed near 111th Place in Watts in 2006. In addition, is Ronnie Baylor, Big Bobo, Lil Bobo, D-Boy, OG Devil, O-Dog, Lil Teaspoon, Top Dog, OG Big Wolf, Lil Yank, and Tavon Sims.
Man, just that roll call, that could have been a president, a senator, multiple doctors, pilots. My people, my people, my people.
Plus it's Vincent Cohen Jr., also known as rapper Slim 400. Slim 400, a life rooted in the streets and lost to the same. Slim 400, born Vincent Cohen, was raised in the city of Compton, California, a place known for both its rich hip-hop legacy and its deeply entrenched gang culture. Growing up in an environment where music and street life often intertwined, Slim 400 found himself navigating a world where survival meant being solid, standing firm, and never folding. From a young age, he was exposed to realities from the block. And while he had talent, heart, and ambition, he also carried the world of his surroundings with him. As a member of the Treetop Pirus, Slim 400 was more than just affiliated. He lived and breathed the code. He represented his hood proudly, not just in how he moved, but also in his music. He rapped about the life he lived, the struggles he saw, and the losses he took. His connection to the Treetop, it wasn't just for show. It was deeply rooted, passed down through relationships and life experiences that molded who he was as a man and as an artist. Slim's music career, it took off at around the mid-2010s when he started working closely with YG, another Compton native and Piru affiliate. With Slim most notably known for his features on YG's songs such as Word is Bond and Twist My Fingers. In their chemistry, it was real, not just industry made, but built off mutual respect and shared experiences. When it came to rapping, Slim stood out with his gritty delivery and street smart.
Slim had the weirdest style. Oh my mama, I ain't never heard no with a style like him. He had the differentest style. Had to hear it over and over again before I started to understand it and then liking it. He was extremely unique and confident with that too. On my mama. I think he knew he was working with a hell of a voice, and that's what he was really utilizing more. He was creative, but it took a long time for that shit to grow on me, on my mama.
Storytelling, making music that resonated with those who knew the life firsthand. He never tried to fake it or commercialize the struggle. He stayed true to the streets, even when it might have cost him bigger opportunities and sadly his life. On December 8th of 2021, he was in the yard of his house near Manchester Boulevard, near 7th Avenue, when he was approached by Michael Terry.
Oh, that's the 7th Avenue, okay.
Shot several times. Surveillance showed that Slim tried to put up a fight, struggling to take Terry's gun after initially being shot. But through that struggle, he was shot several more times before the suspect ran away from the scene. Officers were close and heard the gunshots. And when they arrived, they found 400 on the ground, shot and wounded. He was taken to the hospital, but sadly he was pronounced dead from his wounds. Ultimately, Tory was sentenced to 32 years to life in prison. Definitely rest in peace to Slim 400. The sad part is that Slim's death was a cold and sudden end to a life that had already survived numerous close calls, including the previous 2019 shooting where he was hit 9 times but by miracle pulled through. That year, he spoke to Nick Cannon about surviving the shooting. He told Nick Cannon that he still had staples in his stomach from some of the wounds, and that he had been shot in the ear, back, shoulder, and the jaw. The rapper was hospitalized for 15 days and said he spoke to God during that time, telling him, "I'm gonna do right, God." Also saying, "I ain't gonna be in the streets no more. Just give me another chance and let me show you I can do better." And after that shooting,
and end up getting killed at home. That's crazy. Rest in peace, Brody.
He was publicly seen trying to change his street habits and convert to more of a rapper. So his murder, it sent shockwaves to the hip-hop and the street community. Seen as yet a reminder of how fast life could be taken from you in the same streets that raised you. Slim's death, it wasn't just the loss of a rapper. It was the loss of someone who truly represented the side of Compton many don't understand. He was a product of his environment, but also a reflection of his strength, resilience, and pain. His loyalty to his set, his community, and his music was unwavering. And even in death, his legacy lives through the tracks he left behind and the rumors who still speak his name. Definitely rest in peace to them. And y'all let me know in the comments if any of the members who are no longer with us. Let their names live on. In addition, they also have a lot of OGs who put in a lot of work for the Treetop Pirus. A few of them include Ayatollah Mar, who was a triple OG who put in a lot of work for the Treetops and the Pirus as an umbrella. These days, you can see him doing occasional interviews and helping out in the community he was raised in through several charities. It's also Junior, Remus, Keita Rue, and Ricky. On top of that, they also have a few rappers who have put in a lot of work for Compton and beyond over the years. The earliest rappers of this gang comes to the 1993 song Piru Love by the Crips and the Bloods, where Treetop Piru is mentioned in the line, Treetop to the left and Fruitown to the right. But also in his 1994 song, Dollars Plus Cents by DJ Quick, where he referenced the gang where he says Westside trees spraying out of fleas. And he's definitely a prominent figure from this gang, dropping numerous classic albums and songs over the years and still being looked up to by a lot of rappers to this day. One of my favorite songs from him is definitely gonna be Tonight. Y'all let me know in the comments your favorite DJ Quick song though. Another artist is gonna be High C, who first came into the industry after he put out his Scandalous album in 1990. He recently released the album called Open, so y'all tap in ASAP if y'all haven't heard of him yet. A few other rappers include YTM Island Boy and YTM Yogi. I actually just found them while looking for B-roll for this video, and I'm definitely impressed. And both are pretty good. Island Boy has a funny yet gangster flow, kind of reminds me of a Blood Drake or La Ruler. Yogi has a cool flow too, very gassed up, and also catchy lyrics. Now make sure y'all tap in ASAP. But another artist who definitely helped keep the West Coast relevant over the years is definitely gonna be YG. In 2008, the Treetop Piru's stake in hip-hop culture was reinforced with the rise of rapper YG, who made an impact with the release of Tooted and Booted, featuring another prominent blood artist named as Ty Dolla $ign. Yeah, and don't get it fucked up. YG had been putting in a lot of work in the music scene since before 2008, when the Jerkin era was in full form. His songs like Just Broke Up, Amy, She a Model. Y'all remember this? Yeah, Tooted and Booted was definitely a breakout song, but YG has a long list of great songs before that. Y'all let me know in the comments your favorite.
I thought Tootie Booty was the day uno. I ain't know it went beyond before that. Shout out to the grind on my mama.
Song from YG's early days. Another big rapper from this gang is going to be DJ Quick. Born David Marvin Blake on January 18, 1970 in Compton, California, DJ Quick emerged from humble beginnings, marked by the grit and vibrancy of his surroundings. Compton, a city synonymous with the rise of gangster rap, served as both the backdrop and the muse for Quick's artistic expression. Other rappers from this gang are going to be Keita Rue. Y'all let me know in the comments if any of the rappers I missed. Let's get their music heard. Current state of the Treetop Pirus. When it comes to the current state of the Treetop Pirus, today stands as one of the more active gangs in Compton. This gang started off in the 1970s as one of the more active gangs in Compton. And in the 1980s and 90s, they managed to thrive to the point where they can be found in other states as well. The Treetop Pirus were spread to other parts of the United States, including Tennessee, Texas, and Maryland. Matter of fact, in 2007, a high-ranking female member of the Treetop Pirus in Baltimore named Michelle Hilborn killed David Leonard Moore, who Hilborn believed to be a rival gang member. After killing Moore, Hilborn wrote a poem which was used as evidence in her trial. I guess just shot a nigga in the head cause he wear a blue hat but claimed red. Plus I wanted the satisfaction of seeing a nigga dead. Hilborn eventually was sentenced to 30 years in prison for the murder and racketeering. In addition, the Treetops have made headlines in Texas as well. Like in January 2007, a Treetop Piru member in Houston named Javon Williams shot and killed Charlie Bennett Jr. after an argument. Williams also committed a second murder in February of 2017 when he killed the victim and ransacked their apartment. And in the end, he was sentenced to life for the two murders. Lastly, they also have a presence in New York, but y'all let me know in the comments if they have a presence in any other states. Anyways, that's it for the Treetops though. Y'all got any crazy stories about these guys?
Hey, check this out.
All my life, like
What it is, though?
from my mama house to my daddy house, it was like straight up central.
I'ma tell you how it is. I
Line of
was
the
raised by the
century,
streets.
yeah,
I'm known
yeah.
from the west to the east.
Like 156 to
Where the Crips, they was cracking.
99th
Blood,
Street.
they was cracking. I ain't turning down now.
That's how I ended up
I
like
was raised by the
banging.
streets. I'm known from the west to
Like
the east.
9-7, you did.
Where the Crips, they was cracking. The Bloods, they was cracking. I ain't turning down now.
Loaded up like the dam, same bandana, all black head to toe, like a bang Santana. Clan of lantanas on the scanner when it's time to trip. Can I be a Los Angeles loc and a Compton crib? No brain, head bait mag, chomping on tracks. First rap on the map, just say bomping on wax. Relax and get your whole group beat by boot. By SPI, Boodaroo, and Treetop. True, 1597, fucking with the 400s. Wanna run it in, I'ma let the whole fun it. All on a bitch, boy, break a nigga face. Biggest mistake to think you could ever take a nigga play. See, I came up with some CC riders. Cause watch your cack at the center divider. Here in Tyler, Pot and Chill. My track, new G homies. G ask the streets about me, I'm a G homie.
I was raised by the streets. I'm known from the west to the east. What the Crips say was cracking, the blood say was bragging. I ain't turning down now was happening. I was raised by the streets. I'm known from the west to the east. What the Crips say was cracking, the blood say was bragging. I ain't turning down now was
been a motherfucker, but I'ma play ball. SPI, AD, fucking with the 400, no bleak. Really in the trenches, but I'm strapped when I do it. And money is the mode, yellow tape, how I rule. Said ain't black, West trees, why I do it? So nigga, watch your ass at the center of the vibe. Been getting dope, hella active, can't change ways. Bumping all I know who wanna play games. I'm thinking nobody really catch a body. I don't fuck with these niggas, this be fucking with these niggas. Real street baby, really get it baby. When I show up, I show out. A nigga need a bag, stick a nigga out on side that video. So who talking? Nigga had to get it, so I can tell you how I did it. Who more active? Westside really ride. Bitch niggas
I'ma tell you how it is. I was raised by the streets. I'm known from the west to the east. What the Crips say was cracking, the blood say was bragging. I ain't turning down now was happening. I was raised by the streets. I'm known from the west to the east. What the Crips say was cracking, the blood say was bragging. I ain't turning down now was happening.
Really in it, she get ugly at any minute. Hit the club and dust security, sneaking and send me in it. One time's coming, we gon' floor. Chevy got to hit me in it. It was cracking in the hood. They would say that 20 did it up. Kill it on these tracks. I know Flo, he got my back. Stacking dollar with the strap. SBI with that big Mac. Look, first a couple stacks. Doubt it, better read the stats. When I'm rapping, it's the truth. Every line I speak is facts. Look, my mama said my homies was a bad look. We was hitting schools trying to steal a couple MacBooks. I was always that nigga to try to rumble up with it. Put a lot of niggas on their ass.
I was raised by the streets. I'm known from the west to the east. What the Crips say was cracking, the blood say was bragging. I ain't turning down now was happening. I was raised by the streets. I'm known from the west to the east. What the Crips say was cracking, the blood say was bragging. I ain't turning down now was happening.
Nigga that hustle. Big shout out to my nigga SPI, Spotter Low. You know I'm in the black box, had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned, all that.
It's the homie cook-up boss, goddammit, Cub Low. And y'all tuning in to the Wake and Bake show with goddammit the homeboy Spider Low.
Here with SPI, the realest nigga in LA.
Spider this bitch.
My nigga is Spider Low.
Spider Low, nigga.
Spider Low.
It's Spider Low.
Spider Low.
Spider Low.
Spider Low.
Spider Low, that's my nigga.
Spider Low.
Spider Low.
Shout out to SPI, that motherfucking nigga.
Spider Low, Wake and Bake. Better keep it Google, nigga.
Loke is in LA somewhere doing what he's doing.
In the words of Spider Loke on my mama's mama.
Spider Loke's gear. This is Bay Mac.
Nate Blood, C-Mac, shout out my Loke, Spider Loke, huh? Nate Blood, on hood. It's a beautiful world. You fight me? Fight, Craig.
Point blank, do no subliminal dissing. When I listen, I can tell you never been on no mission. Sticking to the script, don't care if I offend you. Neighborhood crib, the marathon
I overlook my competition, never seeing them. I done trained my mind that I'm going. You could tell by how I walk, talk, I'm a boss. A east side millionaire, homie, what you thought? My life is a movie. They can't get close to me. They mad cause they can't be. I'm everything that they wanna be, yeah.
You are now in the black box. Whoa. With Spider Loke, Most Easty, aka VJ Keyway, and the Google Gang.
Let's go!